Can you guys hear me?
Saved Adam.
Yes, we hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Cool. Thanks.
Get on mute. Counselor Richardson,
Good evening. Here, present.
Counselor Ring,
Present.
Mayor Mays.
Present. Item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to call on Counselor Scott Randall to please lead us in the pledge.
Please stand if you are able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 4 is the approval of the agenda, and we have one item to add to the consent agenda. So this will be item 9D, which is a resolution approving an amendment to the agreement with Klickitat County. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Runyon, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Counselor Runyon and seconded by Counselor Randall to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 4-0. Thank you very much. So we go now to presentations of item 5A is our annual tourism report from our Chamber of Commerce Executive Director and her sidekick. Maybe you could introduce yourself as well.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and staff. One, thank you for this opportunity. And tonight I have the amazing privilege of not presenting to you. So Lynn Cox, is our Director of Tourism, will be presenting to you this report that has occurred basically from July 1 until January 31st with our data, both overview and goals and forward moving. So feel free to ask us any questions along the way. You do not have to wait till we get to the very end. We love questions. But with that, I'm going to let Lynn take over.
Thank you. I'm Lynn Cox, the Tourism Director for Explore the Dalles. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for letting me present this to you this evening. As Lisa said, it's, can you hear me now?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Normally I have a really loud voice, so I didn't want to seem like I was yelling at you. This is from July 1st of 2025 through January 31st of this year. And we will be looking at the performance results, community impact, and forward direction of Explore the Dalles. I will also be letting you know that there are numbered tabs in your presentation. If you'd like to follow along, I'll let you know when I switch sections, so you can do that if you so choose to. So section 1, during the last 7 months, we have had over 5 million impressions across all marketing channels, showing a strong exposure for Explore the Dalles. KATU and our digital campaigns drove the majority of that visibility. 3.5 million broadcast impressions were a result of our partnership with the KATU WeatherCam. Over 1 million impressions were from targeted digital campaigns, and 110% year-over-year increase of visibility for Explore the Dalles' website. 3,275 direct visitor interactions with the visitor center located here in the Dalles. We supported 8 grants that were tourism-focused events. And we had accessibility leader training and became Sunflower Hidden Disabilities certified for the City of the Dalles. That welcomes all visitors with any type of disability that they might have that you can't see. Our visitor center, as I said, had 3,275 interactions. That included 1,811 walk-ins into the center and 1,464 phone interactions. Visitors were regional, national, and international locations. They came from the Pacific Northwest, California, Texas, the Midwest, Germany, Japan, Spain, and Canada. That reflects a strong demand and broad reach beyond our local environment for the Dalles to be a regional and international destination. July lodging performed strongly at 85%. It exceeded the prior year and exceeded the Pacific Northwest and regional national averages. The winter months, of course, were slower. That's always the case. And Explore the Dalles will be focusing to bring in more experiences and lodgings with overnight stays during the shoulder seasons. During the reporting period, the Dalles saw 1,017,704 total visitor trips based on the Datify tracking. An average visitor, when they come to the Dalles and to the Hood Gorge region, spends $260. That's on food, fuel, shopping, lodging, entertainment, whatever they're going to do while they're here. This resulted in an estimated $264.6 million in visitor spends brought into our community. That's over $250 million supporting local businesses and our economy here directly in the Dalles. Section 3, marketing. Our marketing campaigns generated over 5 million impressions across all channels. That is print, digital, social media, websites, the whole 9 yards. The KETU webcam partnership that we have provided 3,531,800 broadcast impressions. That would be where it was seen on the TV or on your mobile and then clicked on to come to Explore the Dalles. Digital campaigns in targeted markets resulted in 26,394 impressions directly linked to explorethedalles.com's website. An impression, just in case anybody needs to know, is simply the potential for a visitor to see our ad or our campaign, and then potentially come here if they so choose. Digital campaigns generated over 1 million impressions. We had 2 digital campaigns. We did a bi-coastal campaign that was 581,855 impressions. We also did a Datify campaign that resulted in 529,622 impressions. Datify tracking shows 5,244 trips total. That's 9,521 visitor days. And it resulted in $913,000 in estimated spends following the ad exposure that we got through those campaigns. The website visibility for explorethedalles.com increased significantly year over year. It reached 274,746 research impressions, which is a 110% increase. Media relationships allowed access to discounted advertising opportunities for us. We secured 2 that were pretty prominent: the 1859 Oregon edition magazine and the 1889 Washington edition magazine. These magazines also have digital platforms that they reside on. 98,000 social media impressions and 17,000 newsletters were printed across both. So each one of them prints off that much for their magazine. Each placement saved approximately 39% compared to the standard cost of a normal ad. This extends the value of tourism dollars while maintaining a strong reach in our regions. The Frosty Trail. You might have seen that when you were out shopping for Christmas or in the beginning of this year. That campaign targeted Portland area visitors that came from 50 miles plus out from us. It generated $5,000 in tracked retail spending locally. And we had an additional engagement through the Goose Chase app that while it couldn't track spending, it definitely, the participating businesses let us know that there was higher foot traffic in their businesses when we were doing that. A similar campaign to the Goose Chase app we did for Frosty Trail will be happening through the month of April for the Cherry Fest. Section 4, our grants. We supported 8 grants that were tourism-driven events. We prioritized out-of-area visitors, overnight stays, and shoulder season activity. Some of them that we supported were Neon Nights, the Dalles Hoot, Cherry Stomp Revival, and the Pride Party. The others are listed in your report that you have up there. Explore the Dalles also supported regional exposure through the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland and the Central Oregon Sportsman Show in Redmond, Oregon. Section 5, our cruises. We have established direct contact with American Cruise Line leadership and helped guide cruise passengers into downtown and into our businesses and attractions. We want to enhance the passenger experience while they're here in port. Passengers usually stay on board overnight when they're here in port, but they do contribute to restaurants, shops, and attractions along with events for e-commerce during the daytime while they're here. We have added QR codes and communication tools to the material that the passengers get prior to them exiting the ship in port. The QR code, one of them goes directly to explorethedalles.com's website. The other one goes directly to our community events calendar. So with that said, we encourage everyone to please use the community events calendar for any event that you have so that our ship passengers can see what's happening in the Dalles. Section 6, strategy. So the city is exploring a partnership with Explore the Dalles and the University of Oregon students to assist with developing a long-term strategic tourism framework. This would provide market research, visitor trend analysis, and a long-term tourism strategy. We're definitely supportive of this opportunity and look forward to being able to collaborate on this. Section 7. We work closely with Travel Oregon, the Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance, and local and regional partners. These partnerships help extend visibility for the Dalles and ensure our messaging is aligned across all of the markets in our Hood Gorge region. We also work on coordinating with the City of the Dalles to strengthen the transparency with the TLT dollars and improve communication efforts between the city and Explore the Dalles. Section 8. In conclusion, during this reporting period, tourism efforts generated over 5 million impressions, supported 8 tourism generating events with grants, and recorded more than 3,200 direct visitor interactions in our visitor center here in the Dalles. Looking ahead, our focus remains on increasing overnight visitation, strengthening shoulder season activities, and continuing data-driven marketing efforts. Beginning this spring, we'll be launching a business storytelling video initiative where we will interview businesses, have a short video on their story, how they got started, why they have their business here. And we will be using those for social media campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, our website, and YouTube to help promote the Dalles and our businesses. Explore the Dalles remains committed to transparency and accountability and alignment with the city priorities moving forward. Thank you. Questions?
Well, we'll start with Council Runyon.
Yeah. So as an old broadcaster, I would say this is the fluff, all the things reported and whatnot. Maybe it's a question for you, Matthew, city manager. Do you get a copy of the actual dollars spent on different things so we can be assured of what they're going to, not just operations of the chamber, but that they're going to what we want them to go to?
Yes, we get a monthly invoice, and we have the reporting documents to support those different expenditures in alignment with the annual budget that they submit as part of the contract that we have.
And you're satisfied with what you're receiving?
Yes.
You still think that once a year is enough?
So in the contract that we actually have, we set a minimum of an annual report. If the council was interested in additional reporting, there is the option for that. I think up to quarterly was the maximum there. Given the agendas that we've had, frankly, and we've had some very long night meetings to get through all of our action items. I think annually is sufficient at this stage, but it's council discretion if you'd like additional reporting periods.
One other question here I noticed, and again, my background, local broadcasting, I see one company noted. There are three in our community. There's some reason we're not sharing the wealth between the three different companies?
So Bi-Coastal has a digital campaign method that they do, and they came to us with it with a proposal. And we did some research. We've already done Datafy, and it's been a great campaign for us to do. So we tried the Bi-Coastal. We'll probably just stick with Datafy going forward. We do advertise as a chamber with all three of the companies, but not all companies have those same types of campaigns that we take advantage of. This is a specific type of digital embedding all over the digital world, and it's a campaign that's done that way. They're with GIFs that are usually 15-second or less that are put all over using our data that we have as to what our audience is that's coming to our community. We're not eliminating or not including everyone. It just happens to come. They came to us with a proposal. So just like Datafy's come to us with a proposal, just like 1859, and we researched it and decided to take a try. But we have gotten better results and better following data with Datafy. So we will probably extend and continue to stay with Datafy for those campaigns.
All three have remarkably different audiences and whatnot, and I think it'd be helpful to review that.
But
at least.
I'm going to interject for just a second, because one of the things is the digital campaign that we did with Bi-Coastal is further out than 50 miles. Some of the other stations are advertising, yes, but they don't all do this type of campaign. And these dollars that we do to promote are meant to be spent to target audiences that are much further than the 50-mile radius. That's a travel Oregon and the state of Oregon specification and ordinance.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Council Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you involved at all with the Dalles walking tour? Is that still a thing that, like, when passengers on the cruise ship get off, they can take a self-guided tour on there's an app, I believe, on the phone. Are you?
Do you mean like the murals or just a walking?
I thought there was a walking tour. There was an app you could get on AutoCast.
Yeah, so I can speak to that somewhat. There is a walking tour that I believe was originally organized by the Art Center several years ago. It's on an AutoCast app. And it's actually something we're reviewing right now. We're looking at the contract and the relationship that we have with AutoCast. And it's something that we have under review right now, and something to promote if the city elects to continue using that service.
Okay, so the chamber has no involvement at this point anyway.
I don't think
We
it's
just
formation
have
of
a
that.
placard out front with the QR code on it, but we haven't been engaged with that. That's something that we had no control over or anything. But if it is something that we can be definitely putting out there, we will.
It's something that I think we can ascertain, and once we land where we think we may land, we can reach out to promote it. I'd hate to be premature in something that we're still evaluating at this time, but originally I believe it was the Dalles Art Center project.
Thank you.
Counselor Ring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think two probably really quick questions. So you mentioned marketing impressions and research impressions. I'm personally much more interested in research impressions because it's more analytical. It's not like marketing impressions are, essentially the number of times that an ad was loaded, right? Research impressions would be, um, the difference between how many were served or, having an ad loaded versus somebody actually viewing it. So could you, I believe you had the research impression numbers in there. Can you refresh me on that specific data point?
So are
I'm
you referring
interested-
to the Datafy information of the campaign that we ran with the actual clicks that
Yeah,
transitioned into visits into dollars?
well, I'm going to go down that in a second. I'm interested in the number of times that somebody was able to see an ad, stayed on the ad, or clicked on the ad before we get into like the dollars and things like that were spent.
Okay, so I will tell you right off the bat, our information doesn't give us that much detail. We get an impression if they've seen it on their screen. However, with the Datafy tracking, that one does go into if they've seen it, clicked on it, and then came that, because they're tracking with the cell phones. So that information that we used on a month-long campaign through Datafy actually created 5,244 actual trips from people who clicked on those ads.
Okay.
And that was just a 30-day campaign that we did with them. And then that actually translated to 9,521 visitor days. So because not everybody actually spends the night, but that's how many times we had for visitors. And then that took and converted it into $913,000. That resulted from a 30-day campaign.
I'm curious, what month was that done?
I'd have to go back and look because we've done a few campaigns with them. We usually do one in the spring and one in the fall so we can catch those shoulder seasons. I believe this one was in the fall that we did of 2025.
Okay. And then how do my next question related to revenue generated with our businesses in the city, what sort of mechanisms and data gathering are you using to better understand what the cruise ship passengers and tourists in the city, but not just like the downtown, but anywhere? And I'd imagine that information would cover the entirety of the city, not just our downtown.
So I would have to have every business reporting to us how much money a ship passenger spent in order for us to have that data. I really would, because we don't have a way to track them.
I
What was
thought
that?
affiliated with that. I thought you had a dollar figure or some amount of data associated with the cruise ship passengers.
So we can go and look up how many people may have come into and visited our town on a specific date. And we can try to pull as much of that from the cruise ship as possible. But you have to remember, it's also only a block from Commerce and other people parking and visiting. So it's not going to be a clear-cut, simple calculation. We can do projections of what that is, but that's going to be a little bit harder to figure out.
Okay.
We have given some of those numbers and questions to Travel Oregon so that they can give us an approximate how much a visitor spends when they're on cruise ships in each port so that we can have a better idea. This many people came into port that day. Their average spend is this so that we can have a better idea what those are. The hotel guests are easier because they come and we know they spend overnight. That's an easy calculation that we can do. And we know that there's an approximate spend that Travel Oregon has determined for us by region in the state. So that's where we use that. And everything is an estimation, obviously, because we can't interrogate our guest like the FBI and say, how much did you spend? It doesn't work that way because we want them to come back. But we do the best that we can with what data we can get. But Ben, I'm willing to look into what we can narrow down with that. And maybe you and I can meet over the Datafy with Lynn and see if there's a way to narrow that down even more with the cruise ships.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because I hear, like, on one hand, I hear that people, passengers from the cruise ships are spending time and money downtown, but trying to quantify that,
Mm.
um, as you stated as well, information from Datafy and others is not really quantifiable yet. So, I'd love to better understand if we can identify the potential, not just the potential revenue, right? But actual revenue if we could. Sort of like everybody that goes into Home Depot and carries a cell phone in their pocket, Home Depot 1,000% knows how long you spent in their store, where you were in their store, and what you left with, right? Now that's a very like specific like um data gathering methodology, and it's very expensive. But I'm wondering if we can get drill down to similar information, similar data, so we can better understand how we're capitalizing on things like the cruise ships and whatnot coming in. Just like you do with hotel guests, right?
Yeah. We
So
get help with the hotel guests. That's why it's a little bit easier to drill that down. Somebody else does the heavy lifting as far as the pay on the data system.
sure.
So we can take advantage of that. But Datafy is getting better. It's adding more tools. It's getting a little bit more efficient, a little more accurate. So I may invite you, Ben, for a meeting and you and I go through Datafy and see what we can drill down because we can save that report and then we can bring it up every time.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Matthew, just like my own 2 cents, not speaking for anyone else, but if we could get, I don't know that a presentation is necessarily something that I would ask for, like a quarterly thing or something like that, but having the data and understanding like what's going on periodically throughout the year, I think would be helpful to me at least. So that when we come to these presentations, we have that data gathered and can maybe have a uh, additional dialogue and whatnot. Be pretty fruitful, I think.
That's certainly something we can explore. And again, similar to Lisa's comment, maybe we can have a conversation about what specifically you might be looking at so we can provide that direction um, and be focused in that effort.
Sure. Thanks.
Ben, before you go, are you looking for quarterly data so that you can know the lodging reports and if we can drill down the cruise ships? But are you looking for that data on a quarterly basis or trips or what? Just like we gave the total trips in the Datafy report, is that what you're wanting to have on a quarterly basis? So you just have an idea where it's at and when?
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is see if we can identify trends during, the assumption or theory would be that obviously during the summer we have more visitation, right? Um, the logic follows for the winter time. We didn't have any snow downtown this year. But during a normal winter season, that would drop off significantly, right? Um,
Well, unless you're cousins and the freeway is closed Addie might be doing a little happy dance because she exceeds her rates and stays on those occasions far more than any other time of the month. So it depends. If we have closed freeways, you guys know that we're doing really well. But yes, in the winter, typically when the travel is down, we're going to have down rates. And it's a trend all over the US when winter hits and we actually have a winter. But yeah, that was different. It'll be interesting to get the stats for this last winter. Some of them are still rolling out because they're always 1 to mostly 2 months behind for us to get those actual stats. So, but we'll be watching. But if that's, we'll talk to Matthew.
Yeah, let's do that
And,
because, for example, on page 6, we have an occupancy report broken out by month already,
Right.
not only for this year, but for last year as well. So I just don't want to avoid duplicating effort, and that if there's a data set or a quarterly trend line that we're specifically trying to track, we can have that conversation and I can convey that.
Nope, that sounds great. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the $260 you mentioned, that's an average.
Yeah, that changes every year. It actually changes sometimes per quarter. Travel Oregon they have a third party that does a tremendous amount of data research and looking at what those are and what their average spend is, looking at the economy, looking at this and looking at that. And then we get those rates to use. And like I said, this last 18 months, those have changed almost every quarter and not the average rate for the year. So, we're looking at those. We took a low end on that average and not the high end. Sometimes those average rates were up to 275. So we projected that 260 just to stay on the lower side so that we could have a little bit more even number all the way through the year. And so we get that research from Travel Oregon because they're doing the heavy lifting. Datafy also has some averages that they have derived from all of the data that they do. And they were pretty close to the same number. Datafy had, I think, a little bit bigger number. And we inserted our number that we got from Travel Oregon to make sure that we're staying and not over projecting.
So it's a Travel Oregon number and it's
their third party that does it. Yeah.
statewide.
Well, ours is for the region though. They developed a numbers for every region because obviously sometimes on the coast, you're going to spend more depending on the cost of the hotels, cost of food, and all of those things. So all of those averages, our average that we used is Hood Gorge. That is our average for us. And so that's the number that we use.
That includes lodging.
Yep. Lodging, fuel, food, and shopping.
The University of Oregon program that you mentioned, is that a class or is that just random kids that sign up from all over campus, or how does that work?
I'm going to let Matthew address this one.
So this is an initiative that we're exploring, and we've had a couple different conversations with Urban Renewal and some of the other department heads and staff that we have here. There's a list of about a dozen or so, maybe a few more potential projects that classes from the UFO would work on with a teacher, with a professor advising them. A tourism strategy, a strategic document of some kind was one of those projects. I think we're really eager to see that move forward, potentially this fall. We do have to go through the city's budget process as there is a funding component to this partnership with U of O. It's really been spearheaded by Josh Chandler in our planning department, along with Jake Anderson, our economic development officer, and some staff out at Public Works, depending on the specific project. So it's not just like a random college student, it's a class effort to deliver the identified work product for the relevant project.
Okay, thanks. My last question is, you have a service to provide the city for tourism. There's things you can control and there's other things that you have no control over. What sort of concerns do you have, or any weaknesses that you see during the course of providing the service to the city that you're particularly concerned about, if anything?
Number one, beyond our control is the economy. I'm watching businesses hang on by a thread. And so, that decreases our vitality as a destination. It gives our visitors less choices if they close. So obviously, as a chamber and a visitor center, that is my number one concern: is do we have businesses that are going to be staying in business? So the goal between Lynn and I, we've talked about this a lot, is how do we increase the visitors coming to our town, but also making sure that our businesses are open and have customer service and all of those things that are ready for visitors, so that it's a hand-in-hand operation. We need to have them open in order for people to come, but in order for them to be open, we need to have people to come. It's that egg and chicken story, but we do our best in making sure that that reaches out. We're also trying to find any training that we can provide for those businesses so they can be better diversified, have more tools in their back pocket, and be able to stay open with, let's just be period, to stay open, just because it is a trying time. Costs have gone up immensely. We're worried with the fuel cost increase because that always trickles down to your deliveries, to that. And people don't think that, but it also decreases the amount that people have to spend. So even if they come, they may spend half of what they normally do. So that's half of the revenues for the businesses who are still staying open, but are paying a higher cost to stay open. So it's a vicious circle, but we're trying to do, what can we do? What can we bring in more people? What's a good way to actually, and I'm going to be honest, one of the things that we did do that, and we hope to do it again, is the big events. So Cherry Festival, it is a boost for the income and revenues for our businesses, and it gives them a little bit of a bigger, longer thread to make it until tourism season starts. Lynn and I have been looking at how can we do campaigns that are going to be bigger, broader, so that we are bringing more people here. And to be honest, one of the things that we're looking at is, if I fill up that port with bass tournaments on one hand while she's working on some other things and we're working on this, then every person who stays is revenue for this town, that stays in this town. The other part that we're actually added is that we're trying to get sponsors for events that are outside of the town. So if we can do that, we're bringing outside dollars in, and we're not getting it from our own businesses and organizations, which that's another bonus if we can do that. It's getting fewer and further, there's fewer of those opportunities available anymore just because of the economy. But we're very aware that our town is small. We are a hub, but that hub sometimes is a drive-through rather than come in and stay. So our messaging is come here, explore, do things, and we're trying to get on everything that we can think of, and utilizing those big avenues that Travel Oregon provides, our region provides. We're looking at like the Oregon's Magazine and Washington's Magazine. That has become huge all over, but we're also in targeted areas, like a simple private airplane that takes these little bit higher budget private flights, but while they're there, they don't have all of the outside television, radio, and that. So they have our articles to read. And it may sound funny, but when you've got a story in front of them and they're a captive audience, this is the group that's used to traveling. So we're targeting a little bit better consumer, a better customer, and a better visitor, one that has a less footprint, but a higher spending. And so those are some of the things we're looking at also, just so that, like I said, we're hitting every angle we can think of so that we're bringing outside dollars into our community.
Okay. I did have one other question. On section 7, page 20, near the bottom, what your first bullet point at the bottom of the page talks about increased transparency around the transient lodging tax. That almost implies that, I don't know, what do you mean by increased transparency?
I'll answer first and then you can. How's
Okay.
that? One of the things that we wanted to do and we talked about was we're not helping each other as far as exposure goes. Tagging the city, doing this or referring to and adding the information to both our website and the city's website. We're like, why isn't the Explore the Dalles over there on that website? Why isn't the city over here on? So we're just trying to help each other do that cross promotion. And one of the things that Matthew and Amy came up with that we're like, oh yeah, duh, is why are we not tagging the city of the Dalles in our post for Explore the Dalles on all of our social media platforms? We're so used to doing ours, but why haven't we done the city? And it was like, great question. So we have started to tag, and I noticed that some of the city stuff, they're using our for the chamber, if it's business like, if it's totally fun and tourism, which I'm sorry, Matthew, your posts haven't been all tourism lately. But tagging us on that too, so that we can help increase that footprint. And transparency might have been a wrong word. It's helping to cross promote, and being there for each other as a true partner would. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, my only brief comment and just kind of saying it bluntly, but Explore the Dalles is city work product. It's the city's brand. It's what's been developed under this contract through the hard work of the chamber over many years. And I think there's some confusion around what that is and what it isn't. And so the city participating and being connected and promoting the brand that we own and are paying for strengthens it.
I agree.
Yeah, it sounds like it has nothing to do with transparency as I would define transparency, nor does it have anything to do with the tax itself.
It's a partnership because of that tax.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good. I'll take that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Lisa or Lynn? No. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the cherries. Okay. Item 6, audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Interested citizens are required to sign up in advance to be recognized. Up to 3 minutes per person will be allowed. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions with the understanding that the city can either answer the question tonight or refer that question to the appropriate staff member who will get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. If a response by the city is requested and that response is not immediately provided, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. Tonight we have two.
Second speaker.
Oh, okay. Two people. The second one, we've been given a handout, so I'm going to pass these down. So as long as we're mentioning Nancy Fork, why don't we lead off with you? Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, please put the mic right up to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Oh, wow, that's loud. I'm Nancy Fork. I own the Dalles Wedding Place here in town. I wrote up kind of a little thing to follow. So anyways, it's great to be here. I haven't been to one of the meetings in probably 10 years. So I own the Dalles Wedding Place. I've been in business for about 20 years downtown the Dalles. And I've been in different locations over the years. I started out on Washington Street and then over to 2nd and kind of moved a little bit up and down 2nd Street, just trying to get the better rate of rent and locations. Right now, I am at 419 East 2nd, which has been a really nice location. I really enjoy it, as well as the clients seem to think it's a nice area for me to be as well, because they can see it. Downtown, we've really been always about getting our customers parking and being able to come to our establishments without too much of a hardship. With that being said, today I visited a number of businesses on my block, and I did collect business cards from several of them. We're all concerned about the parking. Has become kind of a cluster of trial and error, I think. So, with that being said, I park right now behind Clint's area where the public parking is supposed to be provided. Wednesday last week,
Excuse me, Nancy, can you stop the clock? You're barely a couple of paragraphs. You only get 3 minutes and you've got about a little over a minute left. So just wanted to warn you that we're try to be pretty strict.
Okay, well,
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
that's okay. I just
Last week on Wednesday, I almost got hit by a huge sewer truck, business vortex. He was backing into the alley, which going west, I guess he was trying to navigate backing in. I was trying to get out because that's where you guys requested us to leave. I don't think he saw me. He was by himself. There was a crew down on Federal digging and doing their own thing too. But let me tell you, scared the out of me. And when I backed up to get out of his way, because he was not clearly seeing me, I rear-ended somebody. Therefore, it was frustrating. So luckily there was a gentleman that was also that watched what happened, who's an owner of another business. And he said, this has just been a huge problem back there with the link bus practically going the wrong direction and different people not knowing where to go. I would like to find a solution. I don't prefer to be in the same parking area where construction is. We're even walking through construction areas. It's just crazy. I've never seen so many places absorbed at once, taken away from businesses downtown.
Okay, your 3 minutes is over expired. Could I just hold on a second? Would you like to comment on?
Oh, this is my only comment, Nancy, is I'd love to get together and have a conversation with you about how we can address some of your concerns. I think I still have your number from the Main Street days and whatnot, but I know you're right down on 2nd Street, so I'll connect with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for coming. Yep.
Matthew, Mr. Mayor, Matthew, can you include me in that, please?
What was that, Ben? Sorry.
Sorry, could you include me in that discussion as well?
Certainly.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Linda Miller wants to talk about the Chenoweth Water PUD.
Which is on the agenda.
Oh, got it. Okay, item 7 is the city manager's report. Mr. Klebs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few items. I was part of the community outreach team trip to Washington, D.C. last week with Commissioner Heggie from Wasco County and Andrea Klaas from the Port of the Dalles. We advocated for some of the policies that impact our region, including secure rural schools, wildfire preparedness, some concerns around visas and ag workers, which is critical for our cherry industry and other agricultural industries. And of course, had conversations with our representatives about House Bill 655, which is the Dalles Watershed Act. Currently, this bill sits in the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. Senator Wyden is on that committee. And what we've really learned from that trip is that his support and championship is essential if we want to see that bill move out of committee. So we will be continuing our conversations and outreach. And I believe the mayor will be hosting a town hall for him in the coming weeks. And that may be another opportunity to touch base with the senator. The mayor, Dave Anderson, our retired public works director, and myself will present to Governor Kotek's Data Center Advisory Committee this Friday with a focus on water. If you haven't been following this committee, the governor formed it just a few months ago, looking to really ground truth and evaluate the impacts, both pro and con, data centers have on communities. And this does seem, I spoke with the chair, does seem to be an opportunity to really present what actually happens on the ground for cities, for water utility operators, power utility operators, et cetera, and that the committee is really interested in ground truthing how these data centers enter a community, how a community prepares and plans for their water master plan, for example, on a 10 or 20-year horizon. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to engage and be part of that conversation. Some of the highlights that we'll focus on, like I said, is the first and foremost, our water master plan, looking at that long-term horizon and a holistic system that serves our community as a whole. How do system development charges play into that? Or in addition, in the case of Google, how infrastructure agreements that, as the council is aware of, may play a role in that. And I'll be certain to report back to the council after we present on Friday. And the only other item I think I have on my list this evening is that there is a QLife board meeting this coming Thursday, which is I'm really looking forward to. As the council recalls, QLife was the recipient of a BEAD grant award. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. And Councilor Runyon and I will keep you informed. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Klebs? Okay, thank you. Item 8 is the city council reports. We'll start on our Zoom with Councilor Ring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a busy week last week. On 17 March, I was at the Urban Renewal Board meeting and we reviewed several of the inputs gathered from the board on how to use the rest of the urban renewal money that would be received through tax increment financing through 2029. The next night, March 18th, I was at CGCC and was able to attend and participate in the Career and Technical Education program, the CTE. This is a unique management engagement opportunity for education and industries such as healthcare, education, human services, computer science, business and entrepreneurship, as well as our construction, advanced manufacturing, and aircraft systems, or aircraft industry at large, to collaborate and ultimately offer educational and actual work experience for youth and younger adults. The following night, on March 19th, I did attend the Parks and Rec meeting. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize this evening was that based on, if you remember previously, the end of last summer, we had the Rip City rally where the Trailblazers and whatnot came out. We met at Waterfront Park. That event, the Trailblazers organization was so impressed with the turnout and organization of that, and working with the staff at Parks and Rec, that they have decided to give a donation to our Parks and Rec department. So this is an annual thing that they do. They've over the course of several years, they've provided something like $300,000 to communities similar to ours and some larger than ours in the state of Oregon through the MOTA Assist program. Basically, what that is, that every time that a Trailblazer makes an assist during a game in the regular season, they put money into a bucket. At the end of the season, that money goes to a community like ours. Normally, it's a competition through application process and whatnot. This year, because of the interaction that they had with our Parks and Rec team in the city, the Trailblazers organization and the MOTA Assist program decided to forego the competition and award our Parks and Rec department outright. The total amount of that is not known right now. It's going to be awarded at the last home game of the season on April 12th. So there'll be Parks and Rec department like board members and things like that that are there for the game that receive that award. But it's estimated to be somewhere north of $30,000, and they'll be able to use that money towards additional equipment at parks like Cirrhosis and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how Scott and the Parks and Recs board decides to spend that money. But I think it'll be pretty awesome. And then, pardon me, and then Friday, March 20th, I met briefly with our city attorney to go over some of the notes that I had for this evening's meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the Urban Renewal Board meeting. We had quite a workshop conversation about what the board wanted to see as far as the Urban Renewal Agency's role. And there was a lot of, there was a pretty strong emphasis from many board members expressing a desire to have the agency show leadership in helping the community set direction and sort of thinking about itself as a community, specifically with regard to the district and how it might market downtown, think about downtown, emphasize or focus the funds that we have for renewing and supporting and uplifting entrepreneurs downtown. I would say also, in addition, the just one point of note, or 2 points of note, the Urban Renewal District does have significant funds. So anyone who is thinking about getting engaged downtown or wants to enter into a conversation about it, either getting started or even business retention, would do well to reach out to our agency manager, Jake Anderson. Additionally, Urban Renewal recently started called like a pilot refresh program, which is essentially a small grant up to, I believe it's $7,500 for essentially refresh, painting, repair, upgrade of building exterior. As of last week, 2 businesses had gone through the little bit of paperwork that we require to get that funding, and 18 more were in the pipeline. So I would say that has been that is proving to be pretty popular. The following morning, we had a traffic safety commission meeting. The focus of the meeting turned out to be quite a lot of conversation among board members regarding the intersection of in front of the high school of, I think, to Washington and 10th and 11th, and sort of that odd shape intersection there. There was in-person testimony from someone who'd been struck as a pedestrian and injured there, and saw quite a lot of discussion about the volume of traffic having increased over the years. So my understanding, and Matthew can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the staff is going to be taking a look and presenting some safety improvement options to the Traffic Safety Commission that we could essentially vet or think through and then recommend to City Council. That might be signage, possibly even a stop sign, perhaps traffic calming or other measures. The third thing I have to report just is that I've had a number of conversations with constituents who have heard about and are concerned, having seen some environmental advocates' social media posts about the Dalles Watershed Act, posts that I think have been a mix of inflammatory and erroneous, and also reflecting some legitimate concerns. That's taken a fair amount of thought. I appreciate the staff putting up the FAQ on the website. And I would like to encourage staff, our city manager and staff, to refresh that and push it out again. It's not a one-time social post, but sort of an ongoing engagement. The Hood River County Commissioners meeting last week, and thank you for the notes from that, had quite an interesting set of historical and watershed facts that were brought out about Dog River and the Hood River, and I think that if my math is right, the result was that the city of the Dalles share of Dog River at full take was something on the order of 4% of that watershed, which makes up about 10% of the Hood River. Or in other words, despite all the social posting about the threat to Hood River, the Dalles share of the watershed, if we took all of it, was something like 1/250th of that flow. So pretty modest. Somebody can check my math if you want. But at any rate, there's some good facts and a lot of documents, and I would just want to encourage us to continue to update and push out the FAQ on that. The end.
Thank you, Councilor Richardson. Councilor Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On March 11th, I attended the Household Hazardous Waste Steering Committee. It's a quarterly meeting we have to kind of review the events like the hazardous waste pickups, review the success of those events and plan for future ones. On the 16th, I attended the League of Oregon Cities Advisory Committee on Water and Wastewater, which, given Councilor Richardson's comments, is timely, although it seemed to be, for our purposes, more pertinent to the wastewater, which I think is our upcoming master plan is going to be on wastewater. So that was useful information, and that will be an advisory committee that will meet again in the future. On the 18th, the Columbia Gorge Community College had a roundtable, a focus group on mission fulfillment, and I participated in that. And then on the 19th, League of Oregon Cities held their president's regional meeting here in the council chambers, and I attended that as well. And that's on my report.
Thank you. Councilor Runyon.
Not a whole lot here. Just want to point out that on May the 2nd, the Wasco County Pioneers Association will have their annual meeting, and it's at St. Mary's again. Doors open at 9:30, lunch 11:30. It's always a good program. And I think former surveyor and planning director and whatnot, Dan Bolt, will be giving the program. He was with Wasco County for many, many years, and I attended their meeting just this last week. So there'll be more information coming out and brochures and flyers and stuff, so be looking for it. Also, tomorrow morning, I'll be up at Oregon Veterans Home. Point Man Ministries will be up there between 9:15 and 10:30, just having coffee and talking with residents of the Veterans Home. And anybody is invited. Just come up and relax and sit down. And they're always glad to see people show up. So that's tomorrow morning, 9:15 to 10:30. And the other thing is, the Dalles is a Medal of Honor city. We have, if you walk out the doors, out these doors right here and go straight across the hall, you will see pictures and a certificate on the wall about that history, as we have a Medal of Honor recipient from the Dalles, from the same individual from the Second War and Korean War. Anyway, and that reminds me that the 250th anniversary is this year, and I would put out there to our city manager and anybody else we should be making some plans because of our status as Medal of Honor recipient city. I'd like to see us start moving forward in some direction of having some kind of things that we either help to sponsor or back those that could do some things regarding that. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilor Runyon. As far as my report goes, March 11th, our retired Public Works Director and me made a presentation to the Port of the Dalles about the history of our relationship with Google as it relates to financial and water and infrastructure arrangements that we have had over the years. And This is something that our city manager mentioned that is kind of a follow-up to that whole issue with our water supply and Google. On March 16th, I attended the Main Street Board meeting with our Economic Development Officer, Jake Anderson at Freebridge Brewery. On March 17th, I did an interview with Al Wynn on KODL Radio. I also attended the same meeting that Councilor Randall alluded to, the League of Oregon Cities regional meeting held here in the Dalles. And finally, I want to recognize the Oregon Military Teen Panel is looking for some recognition. It is composed of 18 dedicated National Guard youth from communities across the state, and their mission is to support the thousands of children whose families serve in the Oregon National Guard. This includes more than 8,000 families of service members who navigate the unique challenges of military life, such as parental deployments. And they are inviting us to join them in two key initiatives. One is to recognize April as the month of the military child and the issuance of a public announcement, which I'm doing now, and also recognizing April as the month of the military child. And the second initiative is what they call Purple Up Day, which is a statewide event to visibly show support for military youth. And that can be something as simple as wearing purple on that day, which is going to be April 9th, 2026. So with that, we'll move on to item 9, which is the consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the more important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight we have 4 items on the consent agenda. First is the approval of the March 9th City Council meeting minutes. Second is authorization of expenditures for the city street chip seal project for 2026. Third is a resolution designating 2 previously adopted resolutions for administrative clarity. And finally, the one we added tonight is a resolution approving an amendment to the joint funding agreement with Klickitat County for the aviation hangar expansion project at our airport. And with that, I would ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. May I add something since have we approved it?
Sure.
Okay. I find our website a little bit tricky to get around. I've mentioned that before, and I know we have improvements down the road. In the consent agenda for the chip seal project, and Wasco County does a wonderful job working with the city on that. And I've personally been involved when I was in my old position. But it listed in there a list of streets in the report. Trying to find it was of some degree of difficulty, and a member of Public Works here tonight was able to show me it is there. So if people would like to see the list of streets, go to Public Works, go to the transportation link, and then go way down to the bottom, and that's where it'll show up. And it would have been nice to have that in the report, I thought. But anyway, my questions were answered because I just wanted to see what streets were on that list this year, because it does change periodically. And so thanks again for your help.
Okay. Item 10A is cost of living adjustments for non-represented staff. Mr. Klebs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be presenting this staff report this evening. The city's historically evaluated the need for cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, to wages. And the methodology we use is looking to the Western Region Consumer Price Index for urban consumers. CPI is the cost change for goods and services in response to inflation. This year, we're looking at a 2.7% increase. The COLA for the last 12 months ending in January was 2.7. A little bit of background here. We have 3 distinct groups from a labor relations perspective here at the city. We have SEIU members, the Dalles Police Association members, and non-represented staff. The COLA this evening is for non-represented staff. They include staffers such as the police chief, our directors and deputy directors, IT staff, planning department staff, finance specialists, and several others. Currently, we are in negotiations with SEIU, and so there'll be additional information for council in the coming weeks and months as those negotiations move forward. And then the Dalles Police Department Association has a COLA detailed in their respective collective bargaining agreement. This is an important step in the budget preparation process, and so we're bringing this item this evening for council approval. As I mentioned, we're right in the middle of preparing for the 26-27 fiscal year, and we intend to include this as part of those budget projections. So staff's recommendation is to move to approve the proposed 2.7% COLA for non-represented staff at the City of the Dalles, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Klebs? Councilor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Matthew. City Manager Klebs, can you remind me, please, roughly how many of our staff is unrepresented?
Oh, that's a great question. If you give me a couple minutes, sir, I may be able to find that number for you, or I can report it to you after the meeting.
Sure, just a
Whichever you
round
prefer.
number. I'm not looking for, a precise FTE.
I would guess 40 or maybe 50 are non-represented.
So it's a substantial portion of our roughly 110 employees.
Correct. I think we're right around 120 employees.
Very
40
good.
or 50 are non-represented, 40 or so are in SEIU, and then 25 to 30 are in the police association. That's what my gut is telling me, but I
Yep.
will get specific numbers for you after the meeting.
Thank you very much.
When you provide that number, could you break it down by supervisory, confidential, and other?
I will break it down in some manner for you, unless you want those specific categories.
What other categories are there?
I don't know. I want to think about it.
Okay. You come up with whatever your
Yeah, thank
heart
you.
desires.
Thank you for your discretion.
Okay, any other questions? Looking for a motion.
This is Richardson. I'll make the motion to approve this.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So moved by Councilor Richardson and seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the proposed 2.7% COLA increase for non-represented staff at the city. Is there any more discussion or questions?
City council, non-represented.
No, we're kind of in a group by ourselves. Why are you interested in
Never
forming a
mind.
union? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, one note here that I just forgot to mention when I talked about the Medal of Honor recipient from the Dalles. I didn't say his name, Lauren R. Kaufman, and the clinic, Veterans Clinic up near the Veterans Home, is actually named after him from a local because of a local support group. And but anyway, his picture and so forth are all out here in the hallway, as far as I know. Lauren R. Kaufman, Medal of Honor recipient from the Korean War, but he served in World War II at the end too. So I always kind of lump them together. He was quite a citizen of recognition from the city and county. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, we have such excellent staff here. We have 56 non-represented employees, 45 in SEIU, 19 in the Police Association for 120 total. Compliments to Bria for getting that to me so quick.
Good work, Bria. Okay, item 10B is a special ordinance approving a short-term franchise agreement extension with Spectrum. Our city attorney is zooming in. Mr. Kara, would you like to explain this one?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm very sorry I couldn't be there tonight. This is a special ordinance to extend our current franchise agreement with Spectrum Charter. Back when this was originally signed in 2016, they were known as Falcon Community Ventures, but they all end up as Charter Spectrum as their sort of everyday name. That franchise is slated to expire in about a week. And this is fairly regular for those to sort of go down to the wire, and almost just as regular is an extension. And so the mechanism to extend a franchise like this one is, frankly, all of them, is through a special ordinance. And so the intent of tonight's special ordinance is to simply extend the terms of the existing franchise about 6 months out, in order to give the city manager and I the time that we need to finalize the negotiations that we're currently undergoing with Charter. It doesn't change any of the material terms of the current franchise agreement. It just updates Charter's address because the last time that this was signed, or the first time that this was signed, 10 years ago, the address has changed on their end for their official notices. But other than that, it's simply just a procedural step. Another procedural step is the fact that this is technically an emergency ordinance. That is a function of our city charter, which requires it to be designated as an emergency ordinance in order for it to take effect right away. And so it shouldn't be there it shouldn't serve as any sort of alarm for the council or for the public. Again, this is just a practical 6 months extension to give us the runway that we would need to finalize our negotiations with Charter. And I think that that's a very feasible timeline for us. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the city attorney?
Not for the attorney.
Any questions for anybody else?
Just on the off chance that there's not a Spectrum office now between here and Yakima to the north, and I believe Gresham may have one to the west. Hood River doesn't have one any longer, and we don't. Seems like when you have a franchise in our community, there ought to be an office within some sort of reasonable distance, but that's just me. And can we slip that in the contract upgrade? Well, probably not.
Well, so
I think I sympathize with that point of view. I know other cities are experiencing the same thing. I don't suppose that's ever been brought up, has it, with Spectrum?
Yeah, we used to have that in our contract, and then in 2016 it was removed, and it's something that we could explore negotiating. I'll be candid, we haven't done that in this go around. The primary reason why is when we're talking about cable service, it's largely it's entirely preempted by federal law, and so there's this federal act, the Cable Act, that really regulates this world of cable throughout the United States and throughout cities and counties. One of the conditions of that federal act is that the overall limit that a city can charge a cable provider for operating cable services, that limit includes things like whether that operator has a brick and mortar establishment in that city. And so in the case of the city of the Dalles, that has been something that we used to have. And if we wanted it again, we could ask for it. But it would cut into the franchise fee that we collect, because at most, we're capped at 5% of the gross revenue they earn here. And so let's say that store would cost $250,000 for them to have here in the Dalles, for Charter to have, with staff and employees and the brick and the mortar, the building itself. That, let's say that $250,000 is what it costs. That $250,000 would come out of the money they would otherwise pay the city, because we're capped at a certain percentage. Does that make sense?
Yes. That 250,000, did you just kind of throw that out as an example?
I just tossed out a number for
okay.
But you can think about 2 or 3 employees in a building, or rent for a building. That's sort of where my head was at. It very well could be 100,000 or 500,000. I don't really know.
Since you've already been participating in negotiations with Spectrum, would it be considered bad faith negotiating if you were to raise the issue after discussions have already taken place?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I mean, it's something we haven't, it hasn't come up. They haven't said no, we haven't asked because it's not in our current franchise. We've been sort of focused on that. It's not something that we've asked for.
Okay.
Yeah. One other addition.
Yeah, before I get to council, was this a follow-up on what I raised?
Yeah.
And then Councilor Ring.
I would just say the likelihood of them reopening because of those costs and whatnot are probably nil and none. But we have other franchisees here in the community and require them once a year to come in and talk to us. And that wouldn't seem like too much to ask to have them send a representative once in a while to let us know what's new and what's going on and how they can better service, that sort of thing. But anyway.
We have other, is that?
The only one I can think of off the cuff is the
Waste management.
Waste management comes in, not necessarily for a presentation, but more in pursuit of rate
Raise.
adjustments.
Yeah.
But with it comes the context.
Just a thought.
Councilor Ring?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out that Charter does still have a brick and mortar building downtown.
Yeah.
It provides services out of it. So there's rent, there's people, there's equipment, there's trucks. The thing that we're missing in this town from Charter is an office for us to exchange equipment. There is no, I've had my own personal dealings with Charter, with Spectrum Communications, like, good, bad, indifferent. But there's service here. They have office space here. They don't have a storefront. They don't operate a storefront in their brick and mortar building that they operate out of the Dalles. I personally would love to see them do that. I think it would be a beneficial thing for both them and the city, our residents.
That building you're alluding to doesn't have any staff there, do they? I mean, like
Customer service
person or anything like that.
They used to, and they still operate out of the same building.
I see. Well, I would mention if the intent there is customer service, I think, that's one thing. The other is, as I understand it, if you have, like, let's say a very common situation, a single family home and a residence, somebody will have a Charter subscription for service for Spectrum for their internet, or maybe for their television as well. But let's just use internet. They'll give you like an all-in-one kind of a modem and a router, and you pay for that monthly as part of your service, or maybe there's a small fee for that. And let's say you want to change service providers and you no longer want Spectrum, or let's say you're moving residences and you're moving somewhere that doesn't offer Spectrum. As I understand it, you simply just take that device and you take it to like a UPS store, and you can just hand it to them without a box, without a shipping label, without anything. You just walk into the UPS store and you just say, here's my Charter modem, and then they will simply just mail it away for you free of charge, basically no questions asked. And so, yeah, I know that they also mail out their equipment as well. So I'm not so sure how other communities that have brick and mortar customer service facing locations, how they offer services that are different than that. I'm sure that they do somehow, but yeah.
I know that to be true. Here's the problem. Myself personally, and a number of people, this has become telecommuting from a home office has become a magnified thing since COVID a few years ago, 2020. There is no UPS store in the Dalles. There is no drop-off location, right? There's no UPS or Staples or FedEx to go into in the city of the Dalles or Hood River. The Hood River does have a independent shipping station next to Safeway.
They have a UPS store in the Heights in Hood River.
You're right, up by Rose Hours.
Yeah.
But that still requires people that work from home to go without services potentially for some amount of time while they exchange equipment. That's a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. And I think that some of our residents would certainly appreciate having that back so that they can, do more business, things like that. Also, since COVID, programs like Innovations Academy at District 20, North Wasco County District 21 have become more popular. And children cannot conduct online school without internet service. So if something does happen to the router or Wi-Fi modules and things like that that they do provide, a few years ago, you could go down to this big brick and mortar place. You could go in, exchange your equipment, take new equipment back to your house and have it done the same day, right? Now you have to call, schedule a time. Either somebody has to come out and look at it, or you have to drive to Hood River, ship your equipment out, wait for equipment to show back up. I think they're pretty, I don't want to beat up on them, right? Like I think that the Charter Communications has been pretty expeditious, but it's still a problem. And I think it would behoove us to at least ask the question, hey, what would it take for them to provide that sort of service again, like they used to? Especially given that they already have a brick and mortar building. They've, from what I have seen over the last few years since I moved here in 2009, right? Like I've seen that office expand as far as like vehicles and personnel related to service calls and things like that, or like running new cable, repairing cable, whatever it is that the technicians need to be doing on the daily from their trucks. We're missing that service, that last mile sort of edge service. And nobody in the gorge has that at all. I think that Councilor Runyon brings up a great point. I've certainly heard about it from other constituents over the years. I've had my own personal comings and goings, and I have my own personal alternatives to internet services and whatnot in the city of the Dalles, so that when I do have those service outages, I can still work. Other people don't have the ability to do that, so I think it's an important subject to bring up with them.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Klebs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple comments here. Generally, I mean, certainly good quality customer service to our town and constituents is important. I just wanted to add a little bit of context. The revenue associated with this franchise agreement with Charter in the last fiscal year was about $92,000. And as the city attorney mentioned a moment ago, if Charter agreed to this and provided customer service staff, even at their existing facility on Union Street, one or two customer service individuals could dramatically reduce the amount of revenue that the city receives. So that's just one kind of piece of context in the terms of like scale or scope. Charter is also not the only telecom that we have in town. There are a number of different ISPs, Blue Mountain, Lightspeed Network, several others. And I think it kind of begs the question, if we require such a service from one, do we require it from all? With the resulting impact on revenue again there under the same premise. And I think there's an element here of competition and market solutions that, might be a way to address some of this concern as well. We can certainly ask the question, and the city attorney and I can talk to Charter about what their response may be, and express the concern from the council and the desire from the community to have such service. And we can include that when we bring it back for the council's consideration.
I like your summary, and I think from what I'm gathering, does the council have any objection to the summary as provided by Mr. Klebs and our ongoing relationship with Spectrum? Any problem with what he had suggested? Okay.
The only thing that I would add to that, Matthew, is that Charter Communications, I think, provides the bulk of residential services, right? I certainly, and I don't ask everyone like, oh, who provides you internet at your house? But certainly Charter Communications has a significant footprint in the area. And you can go down to some of the other ISPs in the area, and you can actually go talk to somebody face to face. And it would be interesting to have a conversation and get feedback from them on what they would want to see and what their perspective is on it, right? I think it's only fair to the residents of the city, given that they are the largest residential provider of internet service in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think, Matthew, that we'll ask and report back.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilor Ring. Before we get any more into deliberations, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council regarding this extension of our franchise agreement with Spectrum? Anybody? Mr. Nichols.
It's supposed to be red? Okay, faking me out here. Roger Nichols, 1617 Oregon Street. It is a quick question. It's more a question of understanding something that Matthew said, and that is if they add on something that reduces to the city, are we charging them based on their overall gross income inside the city limits? Because I don't understand how otherwise that would affect. I thought we would charge them per poll charge or something like that.
I believe we charge them 5% of their gross revenue from revenue derived within the city limits. But if we require certain things in the franchise agreement, such as requiring them to have a customer service office, the costs associated with that can be deducted
Okay,
from.
thank you. That's what I wanted to check on. Yeah,
I got that right, Jonathan.
thank you.
Yeah, it's just an in-kind replacement, right?
Anybody else? Okay. Any last questions or comments from the council? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Special Ordinance 26-611 as presented by title only. Am I on the right one?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Okay.
It's been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the ordinance of approving a short-term franchise agreement extension with Spectrum. Is there anyone here who would like to have the ordinance read in its entirety?
Yeah. But I will tell you, I've had Spectrum internet and Wi-Fi and telephone most of my life, so, but I would certainly like to see some kind of face in that office over there. They already, as Ben pointed out very ably, thank you, that we should remember they do own a building here and they do have people here, but we can't go anywhere to mail anything back if we need to, so it's interesting.
Well, we'll get Mr. Kara, Mr. Cleaves will be getting back to us about their further discussions with Spectrum in that regard. Okay. I don't see any takers for you to read the whole thing so will you please read it by title only, Ms. City Clerk?
Special ordinance number 26-611, a special ordinance approving a franchise agreement extension with Spectrum Pacific West LLC for the maintenance and operation of a cable television system and declaring an emergency.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Finally, we have item 10C, which is an ordinance granting a non-exclusive water utility franchise with Chenoweth Water Peoples Utility District. Mr. Kara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matthew and I are happy to present this special ordinance together. And the city charter authorizes the city to determine in our case, contract for franchises, the terms and conditions and charges and fees upon which PUDs, specifically, PUD specifically, but frankly, any entity may occupy the city streets and highways and other property. And the terms of that framework are capped at 20-year intervals. And so tonight we have before you a proposed franchise agreement with the Chenoweth Water PUD. It's a People's Utilities District that's provided water services to customers located within portions of the city and occupying city rights of way with water utility infrastructure, mains, service lines, hydrants, meters, valves, and other related facilities. They've operated within the city's corporate limits for many years, and tonight's proposed water utility franchise agreement, it formalizes and qualifies what the district's continued occupancy in the city's limits will look like in our public rights of way. And so this agreement is truly a negotiated contract between technical staff at both the city and our public works department and with the district and their engineer. This has been a few months in the making, and they worked very hard on it to get it to the spot that both the city and the district are, staff at least from the city are very happy with. As I understand it, after speaking with the district's attorney, the Chenoweth Water PUD board approved entering into this agreement nearly a week ago, 6 days ago, last Tuesday. And so I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but the nature of the agreement and what it really means is all about the procedural operational elements of the district's continued water systems occupancy of our right of way. And so it talks about the procedure for getting permits and different control, traffic control, and all sorts of different requirements relating to ADA and surface restoration for our streets. A whole list of those sort of operational ideas are at the bottom of the first page of the staff report.
Jonathan, you're kind of breaking up. Hold on one moment.
And leading into about, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think you're back now.
Is this any better? Okay, thank you. Well, why don't you just take over, Matthew? Sorry about that.
No worries. Thanks. So just a little bit of context here. Reviewing and updating our franchise agreements kind of across the board has been identified in the City Council's goal packets in the last couple of versions. The most prior version was Action 4.4 to review and update all of the city's franchise agreements. In the recently adopted 3-year strategic plan that the council considered a couple of meetings ago now, we identified continuing that effort, kind of a top to bottom kind of look, with a specific call out to executing a franchise agreement with the Chenoweth Water District as part of that effort. The franchise agreement itself will take an effective date of July 1st, 2026 to align with the fiscal years and to give both entities time to plan their respective budgets. We have an objective here to ensure fairness and consistency across utilities and ratepayers, including the city's own internal charge. And so we have a charge that we apply to our own water and sewer accounts internally. Currently, that percent is 3% of the revenue associated with each of those funds, but we'll be adjusting that again effective July 1st to 5%. That's for the city's own internal work. For this franchise agreement being considered this evening, it starts at a 1% franchise fee with an additional 1% charged in each subsequent year until they reach that 5% cap. And that reflects the impact and work associated with managing these franchise agreements and that relationship and the impact that those activities have on the respective right-of-way. Our hope is that ramped approach gives the district time to absorb and plan for that increase, communicate that to their own customers and constituents, and mitigate that impact over that 5-year term. As we mentioned a moment ago, kind of related to, even charter, the franchise agreements will generate franchise fee revenue based on the district's gross revenue from the water users within the city limits. These funds in particular, reflecting the impacts to streets, will be dedicated to the transportation fund or street fund that we have here. And so the staff recommendation tonight is to adopt special ordinance number 26-612, a special ordinance granting a non-exclusive water utility franchise to Chenoweth Water People's Utility District as presented by title only. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Let's keep the discussion to just questions because we have someone who would like to address the council, and then after that, we can deliberate. So questions for the staff?
Well, okay, I'll start. I understand that this all started because there was some work being done and we were unaware of it, and it cut up open a city arterial or a road, and when we found out about that, that's where this kind of started, right?
I wouldn't say that's where it started. We had already identified with council direction, reviewing and updating these franchise agreements that we have, or in this case that we did not have with an entity that was utilizing our right of way. The incident that occurred over on 10th Street highlighted the need to have an agreement such as this, not only for the impact that it has to the city systems, but also to strengthen the partnership and communication that we have with Chenoweth Water PUD and how we operate within the right of way to avoid those kind of situations again in the future, hopefully.
So try to figure out how to say this. So initially, it's so that they know they need to contact us when they're dealing with one of our right-of-ways. That's the bottom line of it. It's our road, it's our sidewalk, whatever they're going to work on, they need to notify us, and this will solidify that response back and forth. I just didn't really understand initially as we were going forward that they would now become subject to the city's billing charges as well. I appreciate the ramped up fortune, but I don't know what that means to the individual payers out there. So that was a surprise.
Mr. Mayor?
So one clarification, if I may, is that Chenoweth Water PUD's rates and their rate system is entirely separate from that. The Chenoweth water users aren't going to be forced to city water rates or anything like that.
So we're just charging for the bookwork we do, or?
Well, the Chenoweth district will be charged a franchise fee in the first year, 1% of their gross revenue, leading up to 5%. How they manage that with their rates or with the current budget that they have is their discretion, but they're not being forced to adopt, for example, city water rates itself.
The other item was said in here that their district board was going to be looking at that on March 17th. Did I miss, was that approved by their district board, or?
Yep. So the city attorney mentioned a moment ago that he communicated with Chenoweth's attorney and that they did adopt this franchise agreement at that meeting last week.
Okay, thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay? I just switched over to my phone. Hopefully the connection is a little bit better.
Yep. Yes, we can, Jonathan. Thank you.
Perfect. You bet.
Did I see a hand up, Councilor Ring?
Yeah, but Councilor Runyon asked the questions.
Good.
You think alike.
Who else pays a franchise fee besides, I know Northwest Natural, the Northern Wasco PUD, Spectrum now?
So we have franchise agreements and an associated fee for power, water, sewer, gas, telecom, garbage. I think that's it.
Telecom.
Yes. Telecom, we have Lightspeed Networks, CenturyLink, Woden, GorgeNet, now Blue Mountain, Zayo Group, Electric Lightwave.
Are they all 5%?
Some of those are 7%.
Oh, okay.
In fact, all of them are at least 5%. All of the ones I just named, the telecom ones. But as those terms of those franchises expire, they will be all getting shifted over to 7%.
Okay.
There's some nuance to the respective industry.
Yes. So I'll just to give a quick overview. Thank you, Matthew. Different utilities in utility industries, different utility industries are capped by law at different percentages of gross revenue that cities may take franchise fees from. And so in the world of telecom, depending on the nature of the service, the telecom service, that's 7%. Natural gas and electric, I believe, are capped at 5%, or there is no cap and just nobody ever goes really beyond 5%. Cable is preempted entirely by federal law, which fixes it at 5%. And there's other utilities like irrigation and sewer utility districts in some cases, and water utility districts in some cases, and those are all capped at 5%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Ring.
Thank you. Again, the question was, I was curious how the 5% matches up to some of the other agreements that we have with other entities. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Miller, would you like to address the city council? Please introduce yourself and with your address, and even though we all know who you are.
Linda M. Miller.
Hmm.
950 Pomona Street, number 204, the Dalles, Oregon. Several years ago, when I was on city council, this Chenoweth Water PUD franchise fee came up. And I said back then that the patches that were done on the streets or roads out in the Chenoweth area, out in the west side, that when Chenoweth Water was completed and they did the patch was in better shape than the roads are. It hasn't changed. It's still the same way. And that one patch out on 10th Street that the Chenoweth Water had to dig up and redo because it was a new pavement. There was a former city employee, public works employee, said that when Chenoweth Water went through the procedure of completing the patch, that they had to do something different. Chenoweth Water had to do something different than what the city does. If there's going to be patches made, everybody should be making the same. It should all be done the same. And I think a franchise fee to utilities that everybody has to have, power and water. Why is there a franchise fee for that? Ratepayers are already paying their rates for what they're getting. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Ms. Miller? Okay, City Council, any comments or questions for the staff anymore? Councilor Ring?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Miller brings up an interesting question. I wonder if we could discuss for a minute sort of in the case that Chenoweth Water needs to make a cut in a public right of way like the 10th Street. The 10th Street near or along the safe routes to schools work that was done after that work was completed by the city. One question that comes into my mind is they're going to pay, we're asking them to pay a franchise fee for basically access to that right away, right? But like when they tear up the street and they make a repair or whatever work they're doing, and then they close the street back up, they're paying for that, right? In other words, the funds from that franchise fees are going to go into our street fund, but who covers the cost? Who actually does the work of the patch in the street in that case? My understanding is it's Chenoweth Water because they do the work from start to finish, right?
Yeah, so like a fresh cut. I mean, all of that falls on the on Chenoweth as the entity who is making the cut. There's a couple things there. You know, just generally, a fresh cut is not a one-time patch. I'm confident. I can't be in the room tonight. I'm sorry again, but I'm confident we have
Yes, he
technical
is.
staff. Okay, terrific. We have David Mills there. I'll just say this. Um, uh, yes, it's not just a one-time patch though. So it shortens the life of the payment of the pavement, the asset, which is an asset of the city. Which in the cases of the moratorium that we're talking about, you know, for fresh cuts, it has these additional costs over the time and the life of the project. But David Mills is right there, and he can certainly answer this much better than I can.
Yeah, David Mills, the Deputy Public Works Director, formerly the Transportation Manager. And Jonathan, yeah, you're correct. Anytime a street is cut, it reduces the life expectancy of that street. A brand new street, 20-year life expectancy. It's kind of on a curve as it goes down. When you make a cut, that's an intrusion into that road where water, snow, freeze thaw can affect that cut. And so that's why we have the moratorium on that. One cut, like on Chenoweth that happened, reduced the road PCI from 100 to 88, just that one patch. So we took a brand new road that was a PCI of 100, and which is one cut, reduced it down to 88. So that's why with the new engineering standards that we have that the city also follows, we have certain guidelines for if it's an arterial street or if it's a collector street, different guidelines that we follow, that we require other people to follow to patch those back.
What's PCI stand for?
Pavement Condition Index Rating. 100 is a brand new road and 0 is the worst road.
Pursuant to what Ms. Miller had brought up about the differences in, say, city resurfacing and the Chenoweth Water District, do we have resurfacing standards for all of our utilities who dig up our streets?
Yes, we do, and they're renewed every year. They're the engineering standards for the city. Every, I believe, January they're reintroduced from our engineering department. And so, yeah, every franchise, it's in their agreements. If they make a road surface cut, they need to follow the same guidelines that everybody does.
Okay, and they all have copies of it, and they
all have copies of it. But what happens is when they fill out the right-of-way permit, that goes to the transportation manager, who then lets them know, hey, this road is a arterial street. It's got a PCI of 100, let's say. We're going to require you, if you end up cutting this road, to patch full width, the entire length from, you know, probably one street to another street, for an example, if it's a new road.
Okay. And this 10th Street incident, this first I've heard, is this all connected with the Safe Routes for School project?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, this was an example that we had shared back with council at the tail end of last year, where we had just completed the Safe Routes to School 10th Street project, and I think it was less than a week later there was a cut into it.
Okay. All right. Sure. You want to come up here, please, and for the record?
That cut was on the shoulder of the road. It's in the middle. You are to drive now from Chenoweth Loop to Snipe Street. That should have been, well, it was brand new paving. Well, there's tire marks on that street. When I'm driving my truck down the street, I don't feel them. When I drive my car down the street, I can feel those tire tracks.
Yeah.
Those tire tracks are very much on the radar, and they're anticipated to be fixed this spring, summer.
This spring, the contractor's going to come back and fix that due to the winter weather. They weren't allowed to do it.
It's on our radar for sure.
But the patch that was made on the shoulder of the road, it wasn't down the middle of the road.
Certainly. And the patch by itself was not the reason for this effort. This is something that we had identified overall. And I again think we'll better coordinate those kind of efforts.
Like I say, it was brought before council when I was on council. And it didn't go anywhere then. And as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't go anywhere now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Any other questions? Or comments? Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt special ordinance number 26-612, a special ordinance granting a non-exclusive water utility franchise to Chenoweth Water People's Utility District as presented by title only.
Richardson, I'll second.
Moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Richardson to adopt the special ordinance creating a water utility franchise with the Chenoweth Water District. Is there anyone who would like to have the ordinance read in its entirety? Will the city clerk please read the ordinance by title only?
Special ordinance number 26-612, a special ordinance granting a non-exclusive water utility franchise to Chenoweth Water People's Utility District.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come before